This should be an interesting conversation. We're going to be talking about the death penalty. We're going to be talking about banning the burkas, ghosts, because the former TV presenter...
If we can still hear you, that is.
Well, I'm just trying honey and water, which somebody suggested to me. Louise on email said, give him some honey in hot water.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe. Anyway.
We'll try and get Laura to send some lavender honey from
good?
Where she is.
OK,
yeah.
all right. Well, if it's annoying you, I'm really sorry.
No,
Hopefully,
it's not.
Tomorrow it'll be better. What was that? That's right, it's great. You can't hear what I'm saying, but you love it. Right, the former TV presenter of Most Haunted and doctor, of course.
It doesn't like to be reminded of the most haunted moments.
Well, we will. Dr David Bull has been named as Reform UK's new chairman. Of course, he replaces Zia Yusuf, who quit last week after clashing with one of the party MPs over that whole argument about banning the burqa. Speaking
at a press conference yesterday, Dr Bull said he was deeply honoured that the Reform leader, Nigel Farage, had asked him to take on the position. And he joins us now. Very good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Well, the Mail this morning, I mean, congratulations on the new job.
Congratulations.
But what it comes with is a huge amount of scrutiny, of course.
Without doubt.
And how are you finding that in the few days that you've had the job?
I mean, the transition has been extraordinary. On Sunday, I was presenting a breakfast show on Rival Network, and, of course, then suddenly I'm chairman of Reform UK. Look, I've been involved in politics for many years, 6, 7 years. I was an MEP, obviously, in the European Parliament. I've worked closely with Nigel, with Richard. We've built that party from the ground up. But actually, you're right. Yesterday, suddenly, I wasn't really prepared for the avalanche of comments. The majority really, really nice, but actually some of them were really hurtful and, you know, quite insightful, actually, in some senses. So I've decided I actually need to be quite careful as to what I read for my mental health.
Well, yeah, do be careful what you look at on Twitter. Do you think one of the reasons, and I don't mean this critically at all, but one of the reasons you got the job is because people have been saying about Reform that it's a personality cult, and it wouldn't be anything without the personality of Nigel Farage. You're a personality, you're larger than life, you're colourful. Do you think that it's an attempt possibly to dilute that argument a bit?
So I think what we need is people who have conviction, who have belief, who want the country to be a better place. But I take your point, actually, in 24-hour news cycles, you need to have big personalities, people who can communicate with the electorate. I think my skill set, and you and I know each other very well, we used to work together.
Right, explain the link.
Well, I used to do Rich and Judy. In fact, I was the doctor on Rich and Judy many, many years ago. So,
Channel 4.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've been in TV 30 years, and so that's part of actually part of the equation, which is the public know who I am. They may not necessarily know my face or where I'm from, but they know me. And so in terms of my role going forward, I'm going to be that external-facing person, and also trying to bring the professional party and the voluntary party together. And the voluntary party are those people who work so hard.
OK. Richard mentions the fact that it feels like a one-person party. Nigel Farage is Reform UK. Yeah. And, you know, I mentioned the fact that, you know, once you get a position like this, you become very high profile. People then start to do a trawl of everything you've ever said. You described Nigel Farage as #unhelpful and #idiot.
Did I?
You said that his comments on HIV were ill-judged, prejudiced and dangerous. Is that something that you
When was that?
By?
What did he say?
2014.
What did he say?
Yes, and he'd said that HIV-positive immigrants should not be allowed to come to the UK and receive treatment on the NHS. He said it should not be used as a global health service.
Well, OK, so I sort of agree with him, but sort of don't, which is if you come here...
Well, you definitely didn't agree with him and you called him an idiot.
Well, it was strong words, wasn't it? But if you come here as a legal immigrant and you have HIV, then we need to treat you because you will be mixing and having sex with people in this country. We have a responsibility to get HIV diagnoses, new diagnoses, down to 0. And the best way of doing that is to ensure that everyone is treated, because what we see is viral load going right down. And if you have a low viral load, you are essentially impossible to pass.
So do you still think he was an idiot for saying that?
Nigel and I have rambunctious conversations all the time, you know. I think it's more nuanced than that.
Idiot isn't very nuanced, is it?
What isn't?
Idiot.
Well, OK, I used strong words. I felt he was wrong at that point.
OK, I tell you why. It's because in your tweet, when you said his comments are ill-judged, prejudiced and dangerous, those 3 words will come up a lot when people describe Nigel Farage. So it's pretty extraordinary that they've come up in a tweet that you yourself wrote and you're now the chairman.
But you've got to look through... Everyone's going through everything I've ever tweeted.
Yeah, no, but
I've seen all of that coming up.
But we're now talking about policy, reforms policy, because those are words people associate.
But let's be very clear here,
and for instance, let me just ask the question. Zia Yusuf, he resigned because of the question asked about the burqa.
That's not true.
Which, well, it's one of the reasons that he resigned. He said it's not part of party policy.
That's not why he resigned.
Well, why did he resign?
He says that he resigned, he was absolutely exhausted and he was working all hours that God sends. He had so many jobs. So I think when he was asked the burqa question, I think that was probably the final straw for him. We've had a long conversation about it. I spoke to Zia the night before last.
Does Zia now think that the burqa should be banned?
He said on a vote he would ban it.
OK, so he's now been recruited to that policy, because a lot of people...
Well, he has his own mind.
We asked Chris Bryant, the government minister, yesterday whether the burqa should be banned. He couldn't think of any reason why it should be.
Why not? Well, look, I think...
That was almost exactly the words that he used. But why, he said.
So it's a free vote, it's a matter of conscience.
So it is now party policy, is it?
No, it is not party policy, but I live in East London and I have seen massive demographic shift. I don't think in a country like Britain, walking around with your face covered is good in terms of communication and social cohesion. So I'm very anxious about the rise of people who think it's OK to hide your faces. We had a conversation yesterday about whether it's a burqa, whether it's crash helmets, whether it's scarves or whatever.
Well, this is a religious motivation, isn't it, that people wear the burqa?
Well, or are women oppressed and made to wear the burqa?
Well, how would you know?
Well, then we need to ask them. That's why I said it's a conversation to be had.
But as things stand, you would vote to ban it?
I would, yes.
Let's talk about the death penalty.
Yes.
We all know that the main argument against restoring the death penalty is that you can't bring back the dead, and if you convict the wrong person and you hang them or shoot them or drug them or whatever you do to them to kill them, and then later you find out you made a mistake, the courts have got it wrong, which they do, it's too late. You can't dig them up and put them back to life. Why would you support the return of the death penalty?
Again, a matter of conscience. I think there are some crimes so heinous, and if you can prove beyond all reasonable doubt that that person...
Well, you should anyway, without the death penalty. Well,
of course you should. And my concern with that is those miscarriages of justice. But it does seem to me that some of the sentencing in this country just is so disproportionate to the crimes that have been effected.
Well, give us an example of who you would like to see hanged.
I don't really work like that. If, for example, you had a mass murderer who had confessed to killing multiple children, for example, that person should not... I think that person needs to be punished harshly.
Even though they've confessed? Because normally that's taken into account, isn't it?
Well, yes, but if they confess and if they've killed innocent children, that's unacceptable.
What about a terrorist offence? What about someone who blows up a bus and is caught and it's proven beyond any reasonable doubt?
Then I would instigate it.
So Nigel Farage has said that he doesn't support it, and he says it will not be party policy. You're now the chairman.
Yes.
These are two things that you would say...
These are matters of conscience, aren't they? There will never be party policy.
Oh, OK, so you're completely ruling out the death penalty being
No, I'm not. I'm not,
reform.
but if it came forward...
You just said there'd never be party policy.
No, what I said is it would be a matter of your own conscience. So if it came forward, if there was a vote on it, then it would be up to the members of Parliament to vote according to their conscience, not according to a party whip.
But if you became... And you want Nigel Farage to be Prime Minister.
I do, and he will be.
And, OK, and the polls definitely look like they're leaning towards 31%. That way at this stage, although we're way out from a general election. So you're saying if it came up as a free vote...
Yes.
Well, who would bring it up as a free vote?
Any parliamentarian could do that.
But do you think that if Reform got into government that they might bring that up?
Well, I think we've got bigger problems to deal with, like immigration, for example.
But the thing is, Nigel Farage brought it up yesterday. He brought it up, said it's not going to be party policy, but we should have a debate on it. Everyone's wondering, are you trying to get people, voters, to vote for reform on the basis that they think that the death penalty might be reintroduced?
No, absolutely not.
Why talk about it, then?
I don't know. You'll have to ask him. But just in terms
of... Well, you're the chairman of the party.
Yes, but I didn't bring it up, did I? But the whole point of this is that actually people are struggling in this country. Immigration is way too high, whether it's legal or illegal immigration. No one can see a doctor. We have a huge crisis in the health service, so we're chucking billions of pounds, 200-odd billion pounds at the NHS. I've worked in the NHS. It doesn't work.
Okay.
My friends and colleagues who are consultants are saying it has to be reformed.
Okay, that's really interesting. So, in those circumstances, and you are absolutely right, because the cost of living is a massive issue.
Yeah.
Why, then, did one of your handful of MPs use her time at Prime Minister's Questions to ask about banning the burqa?
I mean, it's a really... I said it was a punchy question. It wouldn't have been the question I asked, but obviously it's up to her.
What's punchy code for?
Well, I was a bit shocked that she'd asked it as her first question. But that's a personal opinion, and I wasn't chairman at that point.
OK, and then now you are chairman. Are you going to say focus on the cost of living?
Yes, I'm going to say what I'm really clear about. It's the stuff that people know at home. They're hurting. Energy costs, far too high. Immigration, far too high. You can't see a doctor. Yeah. All of these things.
Not the death penalty and the burqa?
No.
OK.
Speaking of death, do you believe in ghosts?
Do you know, Richard, I do. And I'll tell you why.
Have you seen a ghost?
Yes, and I've had some very odd experiences in the paranormal.
Where did you see a ghost?
So when I was doing Most Haunted Live, which was an extraordinary... It was the world's largest live ghost hunt, by the way, and we had all of these people watching, but when we came off air, some things happened that I cannot explain.
Like?
So, for example, I was driving through a wood and it was pouring with rain, and I knew someone was in my car. So I stopped the car in the middle of the wood, got into the boot, opened the boot, couldn't find anywhere, got back into the car, drove really fast to the hotel. Derek Okora, who was the paranormal medium at that time, came up to me in the bar and said, "You didn't come here on your own, did you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Your grandmother is with you." So I was like, OK. And then he changed facially. He started to channel her, that's what he said. And then he jumped on me and tried to strangle me. And I'm not kidding, I had bouncers in those days, and they pulled the bouncers off me. And then I went to bed. The next day I said, would you like to explain why you tried to kill me overnight? And he said, well, when I was talking to your grandmother, it was then hijacked by another evil spirit.
Well, if he'd been successful, he would have been hanged by now, wouldn't he, under your regime?
Hang on, Richard. I mean, yeah.
That escalated quickly.
But I've got a lot of stories like that.
Right. Well, we'll have to talk to you afterwards. Dr. David Bull, thank you very much indeed.